We're joined by Marcus Sibley, chairman of the Environmental and Climate Justice Committee at the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP. Marcus, you joined us on a previous segment. There was more to discuss. I want to follow up on this. You said in a previous segment that the NAACP is not partisan, does not get involved in elections per se, but you are political. Again, I want to understand that a little bit more.
So we don't endorse candidates because we are a nonpartisan organization, but we understand that laws run the land. So when you know that, it is your job, it's incumbent upon you to establish relationships with your political officials so that you can help drive legislation. We've been instrumental in the passing of the independent prosecutor bill, most recently marijuana legislation, previous to that ban the box. It's important for us to be present. The recent cumulative impacts law that came into law for environmental justice, we were also instrumental in that. We're behind the scenes. So we're having the conversation. So the community doesn't always see the work that we're doing, but we're behind the scenes making sure the people who represent us are well aware of the concerns of the community.
So I want to follow up on that. So changing of, there are states all across this nation, led by Alabama, Texas, okay, so many others, that are changing and again, the history of the Civil Rights Movement and the Voting Rights Act. Research it if you don't know what that means, and I'll put it in perspective right now. There are many who say, we just want to change the voting law so that you can prove who you say you are. But there are others who argue that there's a lot more going on there, and it's potentially something that's nefarious and dangerous by changing the requirements of people to vote and the potential implications of who our representatives will be and will not be moving forward. Not to mention that people will not be able to vote who previously fought so hard for that right to vote. They're being disenfranchised. Go ahead, Marcus. I know there's a question there. I think there is.
Well, I mean,
got a lot on my mind there. Go ahead.
Well, what you're pointing to is the problem, the age-old problem that Black people have had in this country is proving that we belong and proving that we're citizens. And unfortunately, there's always hoops. There've always been hoops when it comes to us displaying or proving our need to vote, because we understand that in this country, the vote is what matters. If you can vote on it and it becomes a law, that becomes a new culture. So every time there's been an opportunity for us to get a larger a response to voting, anytime we've been able to get more people to the polls, immediately following that election, there's always been tactics to now reduce the amount of people who can vote. So this
you think that's the motive? I'm sorry for interrupting, Marcus. You believe, contrary to what many of those who are leading the effort to change those voting laws, we're just trying to make elections more fair and honest. You're shaking your head because?
Not at all, because if people wanted to be fair and honest, they will be open to as many people as possible participating in the voting process. But they've consistently, it's a playbook. Every time there's been a larger outpouring of Black and Latino votes and Latinx votes, they always come back with new, stricter laws to make people prove that they're citizens. And the most simple thing we should be able to do in this country is vote. We're able to pay bills from our smartphones. We're able to watch this show from a smartphone, but we're making it harder to vote. Like, it doesn't add up. And it always comes back to maintaining white supremacy. That is always the baseline. We can't allow more people to vote, because if more people voted, then we're going to vote out the people who are maintaining the white supremacy. So we have to stop that. And it's always worked. It's always worked.
Real quick, I say January 6th, connected to race or not. Go ahead.
100%.
100%?
100%.
Devil's advocate. Excuse the double entendre there. So January 6th, just a bunch of people who wanted to make sure that the rightfully elected president, Donald Trump, was put into office and that Mike Pence, then vice president, quote, did the right thing and whatever he was supposed to do. And we questioned the results. It was a fixed election. It was rigged. It was the race? Really?
Yeah, it's connected to race because you see white privilege on full display. There was a tried and true method to elect the leader. And when these individuals, when their person didn't win, then I need to exercise my right to show you that what you did was wrong. And now I have the power to come to the Capitol and show you that's what you did was wrong. And because of my presence, something is supposed to change. And that's connected to race because every Black person in the world watched that and said, how quickly would that have been a massacre if we were even on the steps? Because even coming on the steps was off limits. So to go from the steps.
What about breaking into the building? What about threatening members of Congress and threatening to kill Mike Pence?
So that's how it's one layer connected to race.
What about going after cops?
And it's also 100% on that as well. But it's also connected. It's also connected to race because what does "Make America Great" mean? Like, what does it mean? Make it great again. It means going back to a time where the whole diversity thing wasn't an issue, and this whole people taking
our jobs. But not for everyone, Marcus. Not for everyone. I mean, there are a fair number of people who want to go back to what they think when America was great and it was a better country and we competed. See, you're connecting greater to whiteness, aren't you?
I'm connecting greater to a lot of people's definition of great is when there was segregation and people look like me had to go to the back of the bus or go around the back of a restaurant to get food and get nourishment.
You think that's what Donald Trump was advocating?
100%. No doubt. No hesitation at all. People forget Donald Trump had a history of poor race relations long before the White House.
You mean when he was building housing and there was a court case in which he and his father were building housing in Queens and they had to pay the federal government back because they were barring Black people from renting in their apartment? I'm just stating
that's one of them.
I'm sorry.
That's one of the many cases.
I read a little history. That's right. Listen, Marcus, I'm sorry. I'll get off my soapbox.
But that's the thing. But that's why this is
30 seconds. Finish up.
No, I was just saying, environmental justice is important because everything that's happening in our communities is a byproduct of racism and white supremacy. So that we have to attack environmental issues with the same fervor and passion that we attack social justice issues. And that's what we're doing right now at the New Jersey State Conference, NAACP.
Marcus Sibley, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Wells Fargo, the Russell Berry Foundation, New Jersey Sharing Network, the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities Clean Energy Program, MD Advantage Insurance Company, the North Ward Center, Georgian Court University, Fedway Associates, Inc., and by the Adler Aphasia Center. Promotional support provided by Jaffe Communications and by AM 970 The Answer.
How do you create change? By cultivating hope. And we see that every day. In the eyes of our preschoolers, in the souls of the seniors in our Adult Day program, in the minds of the students at Robert Treat Academy, a national Blue Ribbon School of Excellence, in the passion of children in our Youth Leadership Development Program, in our commitment to connections at the Center for Autism, and in the heart of our community, the North Ward Center, creating opportunities for equity, education, and growth.